Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the council meeting, July 18th, 2023. If anyone attending would like any amplifying headphones, please let us know by raising your hand. All right. I'll lead it to pledge allegiance. I'm right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you do a roll call?
Yes, I will. Councilmember Bode.
Here.
Councilmember Sherman. Here. Councilmember Gutierrez.
Here.
Mayor Nesco.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Schmidt.
Here.
Councilmember McDowell. Present. And Councilmember Peterson. Here.
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
This council having late changes to the agenda. City manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item E3, the appointment of a deputy hearing examiner, resolution 12770723. I'm requesting to place on the action agenda. Before number one, as we're requesting a waiver of the 3-touch rule in order to move this project forward quickly and have a second option for hearing examiner tonight upon the council's approval.
Do we have concurrence?
Yes.
All right, okay. Any other late changes? Council have any board reports to share?
No board report, but I attended the ribbon cutting for the Veterans Village. It was very touching. Get together, I should say. Ribbon cutting today. There were some emotions out there for that are thankful that we have that. And now we can house our veterans that need to be housed desperately. So I went there today. Enjoyed it.
I attended as well. It was a very well attended event, and we're lucky to have Coyote Village in our community. Also, I attended our second annual First Movies in the Park, and it was also a very well attended event. I would say bigger than all the movies last year. So it's pretty exciting. People really enjoy that. All right. Anything else? All right. Has everyone reviewed the items on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Is there a motion?
I move to accept the consent agenda, please. Thank you.
Second. All right, we have a motion to second to approve the consent agenda as published. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The next is a presentation from Finance Director Mike Gibbons.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council. We're looking at May's financial report tonight. So as we get a little farther into the year, our estimating is a little bit more accurate because we have more to base this on. So I always feel like as we get into this, and in particular next month, when we look at June, it's really nice to look at that 50% mark. But starting out on page 1, I just wanted to point out, first of all, that the net revenue less expenditures is in the positive at the end of May. And just to remind you, when we started looking at this back in January, it was unfavorable at $132,949. So I think May is a result of just careful monitoring of the budget and watching expenditures. No formal reductions, as you know, had taken place by then. So it's just the awareness, I think, that directors and cost center managers are really placing as a priority on the budget. So I was pleased to see that. It doesn't mean, as you can tell, our revenue is well less, as I pointed out before, than our expenditures, but that's a good sign, and I think it's a sign in a positive direction. The ending fund balance breakdown towards the middle of page 1 shows an unreserved fund balance of $356,887, and in January that was at $192,493. So again, just steps in a good direction. In our budget, those are positive amounts of money. They're not going to make us, but it's a positive sign, and I wanted to point that out to you this evening. If we go to page 2 of the financial report, looking at revenue, property tax at the end of May shows that first half collections As you know, we're due April 30th. We received some of that revenue in the month of May just because of when that hits our books from the county. It's at 57% of budget. That's what we knew at the end of May. There's a correction to that amount that moves about $103,000 from the property tax collections to the PUD excise tax line item. So overall, it's not going to change our revenue. It's just going to drop that back a bit. When I was looking at the property taxes, to be at 57% halfway through is a little bit high. So that's part of the reason, but it also, I think, just shows signs that at least this segment of our economy is still positive and not showing any signs of any kind of a downturn. So for that fact, I'm pleased and grateful. So we corrected that miscoding, and you'll see that property taxes next month reflect that slight shift. At last month's financial report, it was mentioned that May's sales tax revenue is down approximately $19,000 from 2022. Overall, if you look at where sales tax collections are year to date, they're down about 2%. So for us in such a large category, that's significant. However, I wanted to let you know, because I have the benefit of looking ahead and giving you this report a little bit in arrears, June sales tax revenue was not down nearly as much. It was as we compare that with 2022, it was down $5,600. So what I was looking there is to see, is there some kind of trend? Was there, I don't know what's going on exactly, but that made me feel a little bit more relief that there wasn't as much of a difference. I'm still estimating that we'll be under on B&O tax collections, but that may be revised and not be quite as bad as the $200,000 short we're showing right now. We'll see where we end up. I want to let this go a little bit further before I revise that down a little bit. But as I'm looking at the forecast, the revenue forecast moving into 2024, it's not looking quite as bad as I had anticipated. So I tend to take a more conservative view, but it's still off. We'll just kind of see where that falls out. It's a little bit difficult to read it until a few more months go by, because a number of our B&O taxpayers are annual payers. Those come in largely in January. So it sort of throws that amount up, and you need to let it kind of settle out for a few months to know for sure. On page 4 of the report, I wanted to point out that we present a general fund year-to-year comparison with revenue and expenditures by department or area. And this is a nice area to look at for comparisons to recent years. So this is one that I use frequently, and I wanted to point it out to you in the public that it kind of shows that trend between our revenues, but as well as also our expenditures in all of our areas. But you can see where some of our budget items that I've spoken about that were just dramatically up in this most recent budget. It breaks it out pretty well there as a comparison. And then on page 5 of the report, we present a general fund comparison month to month for May from 2021 through present. And it's helpful to see where expenses in this particular month are compared with past years at the same time. And so this is another page of the report that we prepare that I wanted to point out to you, because I think it's helpful. We'll take a look at this a little bit more in depth too next month, because it's nice at that 50% mark to see where things are. But you can see where we expect it to be, where it was last year. Now we're a little bit past 2020 threw things off a bit, but now that we're past that, I think it makes it a nice comparison to look at that. And then on page 7, I wanted to point out, we're presenting the fund balances, and as started with last month's report, a citywide listing by department at the bottom of the page of FTEs or full-time equivalencies of our staffing level. And this is as of May 31st. The only change between April and May is that we had a resignation in the finance department, and so we're showing that as a 1.0 additional vacancy. As you know, that was reduced in the supplemental budget, but as of end of May, when we had this data, that's where that stood. So we'll continue to update that, and next month you'll see our supplemental budget come into play and where some of those changes are, but I wanted to make sure that we looked at that. We continue to work diligently on billing for our grants and contracts to make sure that the funds are that we're receiving reimbursement. We were notified today that Department of Ecology approved large reimbursement for the C Street landfill that we've been waiting for to bring that in. It's over $700,000. So that helps our cash flow overall. So I was pleased to see that our staff worked really hard, both public works staff and finance staff, to make sure those grants come in and that the reimbursements are documented and followed up on. So that's all I have as far as formally pointing out parts of the financial statement, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, comments or questions?
I just have one comment. Thank you, Mike, for your hard work and your team that works with you. I am not good with numbers. And so all these just like swirl around, but I know it makes sense. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll hopefully presenting it and kind of going through some parts of it. I know it's a lot and we put it together and we all in finance know what we're after, but I want to make sure that it's clear to both you and the public so
It
that
is
we're being transparent.
Clear. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. We're recessing from a regular meeting to open a public hearing. City Manager Mark Ziegler has information for us about updating Title II of the Shelton Municipal Code.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. Tonight I'm following up with a briefing you heard last week on Title II that reflected some changes and amendments to 2.56, which references the police department within that title of the Shelton Municipal Code. Well, these updates affect other departments, and as we look through the titles, as some kind of grammatical errors, some changes in the code that were necessary due to the change of the form of government from a commission form of government to the council manager form of government, and just some general cleanup that was suggested by our city attorney. So as you'll see, the chapter 2.12 is the Department of Financial Services, 2.22 the city clerk, and I guess of note there is the clerk would be appointed by the city manager rather than council. That's a change there. 2.24, the Department of Public Works is an amendment. 2.28, the Community and Economic Development Department, again amending that chapter. And then 2.76 would be repealing that chapter. That was the Public Works Planning and Development Services Manager, which I felt was fairly odd that it was codified to begin with, because this was a position within several departments and wasn't a department on its own. So I'm recommending the removal of that chapter in Title II as kind of a cleanup method. I'm happy to answer any questions or clarify anything we may have tonight.
Thank you, Mark. Does anyone sign up for public testimony, Donna?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone in the audience like to speak on this? All right, we have a reading of ordinance number 2009-0623.
Ordinance number 2009-0623. An ordinance of the city of Shelton, Washington, amending Title II of the Shelton Municipal Code relating to city officers and departments.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
I move to place ordinance number 2009-0623 on August 1st council meeting action agenda for further consideration.
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Nope. All right. We have a motion and a second to place ordinance number 2009-0623 on the August 1st council meeting action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing is closed. We resume our regular meeting. We have another item from City Manager Ziegler.
Thank you, Mayor, again. So Resolution number 1276063 is a memorandum of understanding with Cascade Pacific Action Alliance. This is, I guess, what you might call a proverbial hoop to jump through, I guess, to receive some opioid settlement funds through agreements with distributors and suppliers of opioids and the lawsuit the state had against these entities. In receiving those funds, the state mandated that local jurisdictions form some sort of consortium, alliance, or decision-making, group for receiving these funds and distributing these funds. So this was executed early this year, actually, for the first settlement funds. A new agreement reads the same as the last one for the next settlement amount of $10,173.02. Is needed to be executed, and Mason County and Shelton are the only two entities within our region, right? There's no more municipalities within Mason County. So primarily working with Mason County, as we did last time, we distributed some funds to Mason County Public Health for opioid abatement and treatment programs. We will bring back an agreement and some options later to council when we receive the funds on how to distribute those accordingly, but they need to go to that type of programming per the MOU with Washington State. So tonight I'm recommending placing the resolution on the council action agenda for August 1st.
Thank you, Mark. Donna, has anyone signed up for public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Is anyone in the audience have to speak on this?
Good morning, Dean Jewett, lifelong Mason County member, City of Shelton. So a question that I would have, maybe Mark, you can answer this for me. So apparently we have 10,000 that we've got, we're gonna get another 10,000. I'd like to know where that 10,000 went, what entity received it, and then how it was used. And then also, was it of value, and is it gonna go to the same place, same people, same program? Or are we gonna take a look at that and see if it needs to go to a different entity and have a better result? So I'd like to see an email back to me on what it was used for and how we did with it.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? We have a motion. I'm sorry, do we have a motion? We need a motion.
I move to place resolution number 1276-0623 on August 1st. Council meeting action agenda for further consideration.
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All right. We have a motion and a second to place resolution number 1276-0623 on August 1st, council meeting action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Our last item is a resolution to appoint a deputy hearing examiner, community and economic development director, Jay Hill. Has the details.
Mr. Mayor, we're gonna move this to the action agenda, if you don't mind.
I thought that was the last one.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're moving it to the action agenda.
We'll move forward to the action agenda at this point, and we'll start with Mr. Hill to present this resolution.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. This is a resolution to appoint a deputy hearings examiner. We have a code enforcement officer on board. We're working through a couple of cases, and we need someone who has rapid and agile scheduling to be able to deal with some of these cases on the quick turnaround times that are kind of required for some of our abatements. So we were referred to an attorney who has experience doing this and interest in doing this, and it's very, very difficult right now, just as an aside, to find any attorneys to conduct hearings examiner services. We had one respondent when we last went out for an RFP, and that's who we selected. And so, but we were very fortunate to find somebody who's interested, and we negotiated a contract, and we just need council's approval to appoint and direct the city manager to sign the contract so we can begin getting these hearings scheduled.
Thank you. Does anyone sign up for public comment, Donna?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone in the audience like to speak? All right. The resolution. Are we in action now?
Correct.
Okay. As for a reading of resolution, sorry. Can we have a reading of resolution number 1277-0723?
Resolution number 1277-0723. A resolution of the city of Shelton, Washington, approving a professional services agreement with Inslee, Best, Bosey, and Ryder, PS, to provide hearing examiner services.
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
Do we have a motion with the waive the three-touch rule?
Mr. Mayor, I move to waive the three-touch rule and to move approval resolution number 1277-0723, appointing a deputy hearing examiner and directing the city manager to sign the contract for services.
Second.
All right, comments or questions? We have a motion and a second to waive the three-touch rule to approve resolution number 1277-0723, appointing the deputy hearing examiner and directing the city manager to sign the contract services. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Public Works Director Jay Harris has details for us about a financial acceptance for the Civic Center parking lot project.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, Jay Harris, Public Works Director, Civic Center parking lot. I gave you a presentation at the last meeting, a lot of great pictures about construction and grand opening, ribbon cutting, farmers market, great thing. So a lot of good things going on in the lot over there. We expect a long service life, it's permeable paving, which comes with a few challenges with maintenance and that sort of thing over time. But overall, we should have a lot for decades to come. Looking forward to the park too. You know, I walk by there a lot. It seems like there's quite a bit of activity at the basketball court. And pickleball, if anybody's interested, the equipment, the net, and do they call them rackets or paddles? Paddles, okay. The paddles and the little, we used to call them wiffle balls. Do they call those wiffle balls also?
Pickleball.
They're pickleball. I need to get on with the technology here, obviously. They're available at the counter upstairs if anybody's interested to go hit the ball around a little bit. It's fun. So anyways, that's the end of my presentation. There's been no changes to the resolution since the last meeting.
Thank you, Jay. Does anyone sign up for public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Would like to speak on this issue? All right, may I have a reading of resolution 1274-0623?
Resolution number 1274-0623. A resolution of the council of the city of Shelton, Washington, accepting the Civic Center parking lot project as final and complete.
All right, thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt resolution number 1274-0623 as presented.
Second,
Comments or questions?
I wanted to thank the Lions Club for taking on sponsorship of the court. And I wanted to thank the city for providing this great space for the citizens of this town, especially on Saturdays, the farmers market. And it's been beautiful. So get out there and spend your money locally.
I saw after the big fire that we had up on the hill, a lot of the firefighters who kind of needed to release some steams afterward, they were out there playing pickleball and they were having a really good time. So I think it's a really good asset to our community.
It is a great space, and every time I've been down here day or night, it has been, somebody's been out there doing something, mostly basketball, but.
If you don't mind, I will add, we received fence bids, and so we're scheduling fencing for at least 3 sides that front it on the streets and the former alley to provide an extra layer of security there and keep those pickleballs, right, Jay?
Pickleballs, not wiffle balls or pickleballs.
Keep the wiffle balls inside the court.
So we'll be seeing a fence up there before long.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Any more comments or questions? All right.
It's just a beautiful space. It really is. It just turned out really nice. Thank you very much.
All right. We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1274-0623 as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have another item from Director Harris. He has some press reports about vacating Fifth Street between Grove and Coda.
Good evening, Council. Jay Harris again. The police department utilizes most of the street there. The intent is to fence the yard. We got a grant for that with gates. I'm going to leave the sidewalk open on the east there. I'm going to put an easement over the top of the vacated area for the utilities and for the sidewalk easement. And pretty much we need to, this is the 4th time I've been to you. We had 2 resolutions, 2 readings of the ordinance. So we've had a lot of conversation about this. So I look forward to you adopting the ordinance this evening, and there's been no changes since the prior presentation.
Thank you, Jay. Don, has anyone signed up for public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone in the audience like to speak on the court? Fifth Street, excuse me. All right, we have a reading of number 2006-0523.
Ordinance number 2006-0523. An ordinance of the city of Shelton, Washington, vacating Fifth Street between Grove and Coda.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance number 2006-0523 as presented. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt. All comments or questions? We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 2006-0523 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, City Manager Mark Ziegler, it's information for us about updating the Shelton Municipal Code relating to the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, again. So as referenced earlier, Shelton Municipal Code, chapter 2.56, referencing the establishment of the police department and its consistency with RCW 35A.13.080.2, I guess, is which reference it is for the RCW, and just staying in line with collective bargaining provisions and civil service provisions, and updating an area of the code that probably wasn't updated for some time, particularly when we transitioned from a commission form of government to the council manager form of government. So again, no changes from the briefing last week.
Thank you, Mark. Does anyone sign up for public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody in the audience? All right. We have a reading of ordinance number 2008-0623.
Ordinance number 2008-0623. An ordinance of the city of Shelton, Washington, repealing and readopting chapter 2.56 of the Shelton Municipal Code relating to the police department.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
Move to adopt ordinance number 2006-0623 as presented. So 09. Sorry.
2008.
2008.
0623.
You got it. Go ahead and redo that.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2008-0623 as presented.
All right, comments or questions? We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 2008-0623 as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, motion carries. Our last action item is a resolution to approve the city manager contract. Mark has details on his own contract.
I suppose I do. Thank you, Mayor. So as briefed last week, there's a contract in front of the council for adoption for the I guess appointment, I guess, if you will, resolution in front of you to sign to appoint me city manager.
Last chance.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Don, is anyone sign up for public comment?
No, there isn't.
Anybody in the audience?
Dean Jewett, Mason County lifetime member. I just want to congratulate Mark on his appointment. Look forward to working with him, and I'm glad he's here. So good choice, council. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna, may I have a reading of resolution 1275-0623?
Resolution number 1275-0623. A resolution of the city council of the city of Shelton, Mason County, Washington, appointing Mark Ziegler to serve as the city manager and authorizing the mayor to sign an employment agreement between the city and city manager, Mark Ziegler.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 1275-0623 as presented.
Second.
All right, comments or questions? Mark, thank you for taking this on. I know it wasn't an easy decision for you. I know you've been, thinking about it here for a few months, and I think that you're going to be a great asset to the city of Shelton. You've already been a great asset for 29 years. How many months and days?
Oh, boy.
I'm just-
What do we,
I said
probably
30.
10 months, close to 10 months, yeah.
I said 30 once, and you said, well, wait a minute. that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
30.
We don't.
But
I wanna
for
be
your
any
years
older
in the
than I
city,
already
you've been here through a lot, and you've seen a lot, and you've seen a lot of city managers and a lot of commission and council members, and I think you're going to do a great job. I know you're already doing a great job, and welcome to the position, and I hope this is a retirement job for you. And so if you need anything from us, please let us know. We're here to help. We can.
Mark, I'm glad to choose you and want to grow old here together with you and make sure that we have a beautiful neighborhood for everybody. So thank you very much, Mark, and you're a big part of this community. Everybody knows you. I can't even describe anybody who knows everyone else except for maybe my neighbor. But I just mention somebody in the neighborhood and you know who that person is. So you are the person for this job and I'm glad to work with you and just let us know how we can help you and then get out of your way and do your job. Thank you.
All right. Any more comments or questions for Mark? All right. We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1275-0623 as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We can clap for Mark. Okay, Mark, you have a city manager report tonight.
I do tonight. I would say it just got real. Is that how you follow that up? If you'll indulge me for a moment, I'm not a speech maker necessarily and but I would certainly want to take the opportunity to thank the council tonight. This is something I hadn't thought of, hadn't aspired to, and Gary Rhodes hired me in 1993 here at the city of Shelton. But it's an opportunity and there's a lot of challenges as well ahead of us. I feel like, as a community, as a council, as staff, they can be addressed head on with, full participation, active engagement from everybody. And there's nothing insurmountable here that we can't address. I have belief in this community. I have faith in this community. I think that we have the ability to make this community better than it is now, which I think is great. That's why I'm here. That's why I moved back here. That's why I came to this community. It's interesting. There's parallels from a former city administrator, Mike McCarty, that started. I'm not sure when he started. I've got pictures from the 70s though of him with a big mustache and full head of hair, probably like I had one of those days. Up at Hufflepuff Trail as a Parks and Recreation director, and then community development director and city administrator later. And I worked for him in early years here, so it's really interesting. There's a couple parallels here at the city of Shelton. I'm really feel fortunate to have the support of my friends and my family and people in this community, and it's humbling how many people have come up to me and congratulated me and said that I'm the right person for the job, and not necessarily even knowing me, but maybe just by association or knowing the name. But that's humbling. I've got a lot of support there. My wife, supports me a lot, and she'll leave me alone at night, sometimes, or we'll talk about work at times too, because it's not a job you walk out that door at 5 o'clock, and leave it here, right? You're committed to this job. We're all committed to this job that we have to do. There's staff that are committed to this job on a regular basis, and our community deserves that. So it's known. It's not something I'm going into blindly, right? That's something I know and something I embrace and looking forward to. I mentioned the staff a little bit. I'm genuinely excited to continue working with the staff we have here, the dedicated employees of the city of Shelton that feel so strongly about providing the services that are warranted and needed and deserving to our community. It's really important to me that I support them. I'm able to be a resource for them and give them the tools necessary for them to work hard for the community as a whole. So I'm really looking forward to that. And it's really a benefit of being here for so long, is having a little bit of knowledge in a lot of different departments, and hopefully being able to be that resource for these folks that work so hard. I want to tell the community that really we're here to be engaged with. I'm here to be engaged with. I want to hear the successes, I want to hear our problems. I want people to be solutions to those problems. I want people to share in those successes, right? We need to promote those in our community. There's lots of opportunities to do that. We need to continue doing that. We need more people at these meetings. We need more people to engage through our upcoming comprehensive plan. process. It's really important that we have people engage in that. Our community engages in that. It sets the framework, it sets the roadmap, if you will, right? We want to go from A to B. We need to know how to get there, and that comprehensive plan is going to be that roadmap that moves us forward. So any opportunity to engage the community to us to engage a community, I really want to take advantage of and promote that and take every opportunity I can. I'm available, accessible at any time to anybody in this community. So I really want to make that clear that there's no limits to that, basically. Evenings, weekends, whatever it might be. This is a commitment to this community. So thank you so much. So Business Expo and the Bite this Friday. The city will have a booth right down on Railroad Avenue. I just talked about engagement. We want to engage a community a little more. So we're going to have some information that, is typical about water systems and streets and projects like that. We also want to maybe educate our community a little bit and have a little trivia at the site, so folks can learn a bit more about the city through a little trivia game. We have a couple of prizes as well that'll be distributed for folks that participate in that trivia. So please get the word out, have folks come and engage city staff. We'll be staffed by various departments throughout the day, and look forward to meeting everybody down on Railroad Avenue Friday. I was up at the Veterans Village ribbon cutting this afternoon as well. Tremendous turnout, tremendous project. I think it's going to be an asset to our community. I think it's showing those that couldn't envision that prior to the construction, what it really looks like and what it will look like moving forward. I think Coyote Communities is an entity that will certainly take advantage of this opportunity and make a showing for what a project like that can look like in our community and serve those individuals that deserve it the most, which is our veterans and our homeless veterans. So really excited about that. We have a study session next week with the FCS group, utility rate studies. So that'll be in-depth information regarding water and sewer rates and GFCs, general facility charges. We'll follow up. Excuse me, Jay, we changed that, didn't we? I'm sorry.
Street standards.
We're going to come back with street standards. It'll be the third study session on frontage improvement street standards. I think we've refined that to a point where we can move that past the study session for council to consider in a coming meeting. As you know, it's an in-depth project and in-depth topic. The easy thing to do would be say, every development has frontage standards, no matter what, or every development has no frontage standards, right? Infill development is what we're talking about. That's the easy thing to do, but that isn't the right thing to do. We have an urban environment, we have an urban development, people need these urban services, and at what level is that going to be applied? So I think we've got great direction from council, the previous two study sessions, and we have a package to present to you on the 25th for your consideration and further refinement, and then we can come forward and give some certainty to our development community, to those that are building infill lots within the neighborhood residential zone, and help our staff out in presenting that to the development community as well. Circle back around on 8/8, FPS group will be here for the utility rate study development. So we'll have in-depth discussion about how those rates are formulated, the capital improvement plan that dictates kind of how those rates and our operation costs, and then the general facility charges, how those trickle down to achieving that infrastructure improvement that is so needed. As we're talking about water storage issues right now, that is essentially the major topic within the water fund and the rate study and the GFC study. So and then on August 22nd will be the first or the study session for budget 2024 budget discussion. So we will be presenting preliminary budget and some preliminary requests, year to date, and projections and kind of directions and priorities where we think that we'll go and get feedback and consensus from the council where we're going for 2024 as we develop that budget throughout the next couple months. So really important topics for those study sessions that we hope to really move further with some input from the council. I wanted to mention movies in the park again, every Friday now come out. We moved the August 18th, the 25th because of staffing issues, but down at Nealon Park. It'll be a little darker on the 25th and the 18th, so it'll start a little earlier. We're starting a little late right now, once it gets dark enough, but it was just after 9 o'clock, about 5 minutes after 9, I think, when we started last Friday. So that'll get a little earlier as the summer goes on, but again, a great turnout, a great event, lots of people having fun, enjoying themselves down in Nealon Park on a Friday night. So we're happy to provide that. And I thank our staff that are there until late in the evening, taking down the screen and the equipment and providing activities. So that wraps up my report for this evening.
In the movies this Friday is Holes.
Yeah.
And also Thursday night, I give them a plug. Music at the Park is The Lady Drinks Whiskey. Yeah. Any comments or questions for Mark?
What's the movie Friday night?
Holes. It's a kid movie. All right, no comments or questions? All right, we're at a general public comment. Max, can you put the instruction for public comment on the screen for a few moments? All right. We appreciate public comment. I love to hear what's going on in your neighborhood, and we do have some instructions for public comment that we'd like to read.
Mr. Mayor, while you are saying that, we do have a sign-in sheet up here. If anybody from the public has had the ability to sign in at the front counter, if you would sign in right here at the table. We'll get you documented as participating in public comment.
Here's our, when called, approach the podium and state your name, and if you're a resident of the city. Speaker shall remain at the podium and make comments and not approach the council or staff without express invitation of the mayor. Any related documents, printed comments, materials the speaker would like to distribute to the council or staff shall be delivered to the city clerk in sufficient amounts. 7 copies at least 5 minutes prior to the meeting. Remarks must be kept to no more than 3 minutes. The council may direct the city manager to follow up on items that arise during public comment as appropriate. The council does not engage with public. The council will not allow complaints against an individual staff member or council member. Any persons making personal or slanderous remarks who creates an unreasonable disruption while addressing the council shall be directed to cease by the mayor. All right. Donna, do anyone sign up for public comment?
Yes, we do. Our first speaker is Donna Amaryllis.
I'm sorry.
No, okay. How about Jackie Jewett?
My name is Jackie Jewett. I live in Shelton, Washington. The Shelton website lists the mission and the vision and the value of the city. So the mission statement says, the city of Shelton strives to build a strong community and quality of life. The vision statement says, Shelton is a community of active lifestyles, accountability, accountable government, engaged citizens, safe streets, strong work ethics, and inspiring leaders. The values of the city of Shelton, 3 words: community, accountability, and stewardship. Underneath that, there are several headings with bulleted guidelines for the city. So the first one is clearly define the future. And one bullet in that is to plan proactively. Community safety is the next heading. And under that, it says focus on code enforcement activities. Encourage pride in local neighborhoods, and ensure public safety services are funded and staffed appropriately. Part of the concern with a significant amount of people that live and work in Shelton is their feelings of not feeling safe. So we can't dismiss a person's feelings because we can't tell them what to feel. But we want them to feel safe. We want them to be able to walk into Safeway, feel safe. We don't want to have to step over people to get where we're going. You know, we want grandmas and grandpas and grandchildren and children and everybody in this community to feel safe when they come downtown. I have talked to several business owners. I have spoken with several employees of those business owners, along with several friends and family. And there is a consensus that they're not visiting downtown because they do not feel safe. Our commitment, the city of Shelton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Dean Jewett.
Dean Jewett, lifelong Shelton resident, Mason County member, and the husband of my lovely wife, Jackie Jewett. So if you haven't read the vision, all these different statements that she talks about, I highly recommend that you do. We've already had that conversation about what is in the ordinances. And if you can sit there and look at me and find out that you haven't read those ordinances and you don't know what's in those ordinances, is that a dereliction of duty? Are you fulfilling your constituents, putting you in those seats? I can't help but wonder if the statements that were read by our mayor have a direct reflect on me. Imagine that. I sent an email to ask about the protocols and the policies for public comment. Because I've been interrupted no less than 4 times by 2 individuals within the county or within the council. So there was no time put back on my clock. Who gets to remind them of their duties and their policies and their procedures? The public gets 3 minutes. You guys have all the time in the world. I want to talk about the Veterans Village, Colleen Carmichael. Do you know how many people from Shelton are in that community? I believe it's less than 2 or 3. Do you know where the majority of those individuals came from? Kitsap County. Do you realize that when they pitched this idea, there was reservations and concerns about that to begin with? And so now there's an active phone list working to call people to have them come to Shelton. So now we're importing individuals. And you know why we're importing individuals? Because we took state money. Were you guys aware of that? Was it in the contract? If it wasn't in the contract and we started taking state monies for it, does that change the terms of the contract? And do we get fair market value for the property in which that community now sits? And if we do, how would that affect our budget and how could we better use those monies? Because I'd sure like to get a piece of property and then change the terms of the contract and then go ahead and develop it and sell it. So just a question for you guys all to think about. A proactive approach. How many of you have reached out and talked to business owners like I talked about here a few months ago? How many people have taken a self-guided tour of our Brewer campground? You know, we got a Kitsap box in there now. You know what a Kitsap box is? It's a sleeping box. It's made out of plastic. We have one of those in our park now. My wife and I were wondering if we could bring our new Silver Streak and park it up in there and camp out for a bit. Obviously, that's a facetious statement, and I apologize. Shopping carts. You know, we don't want to do anything about shopping carts, but now we've got 30 of them, 40 of them running around. We got 7 of them impeding the railroad project that's going on. I had to reach out to Safeway Corporate. Have any of you guys reached out to any of the big box stores? Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Colleen Carmichael on Zoom.
Good evening. I'm Colleen Carmichael. I'm the Executive Director for Quixote Communities. Mayor Onesco, Deputy Mayor Schmidt, and fellow council members. I would like to thank all of you for your support of the Veterans Village, and we appreciate that we have the opportunity to lease the space from you, and we are grateful that we were able to construct 30 units for veterans who have very deep need for the housing that we're providing. We do follow what is set forth by the county and the funding that we receive. And just so everyone is clear, we have no residents on site because we have not been issued a certificate of occupancy from the city of Shelton. So to state that there are residents that we've already looked at is not accurate. So if you would like to know accurate information about the residents and about how we process through residents, please feel free to contact me directly at my agency, and you can go to our website to find out my contact information. But I would prefer that we have factual information exchanged and verified information so that there's no fear or misunderstandings about what we are doing with our agency and how we are conducting business on site. As it relates to the park and what is going on at the park, there are many facets to outreach, emergency shelter, rapid rehousing, transitional housing, and permanent supportive housing. Those are all needed in order for homeless services to function properly. And we have some gaps. We are working to address those with all of the agencies in town as well as the city. So I want to make sure that the residents know that the city is proactive in trying to find solutions and are interested in people who want to find solutions that will work. And if you would like to participate in that, please reach out to your city council members, your city manager, or any of the leaders of the organizations that are actually working to reduce the number of homeless in the county and in the city. And I thank you for the opportunity for speaking this evening.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, we have one more person via Zoom, and all it says, it looks like Skylar. You're on Zoom, sir.
You're on mute.
You're on mute. And could you state your full name, please?
I'm Dr. J. Schuyler Rad, and I moved my family to Shelton last month. I've prepared remarks. First, I agree with the commenter about safety. I get to Railroad Avenue on foot by taking 2nd Street. I don't like walking near 3rd Street. Secondly, last Wednesday, I went to court held in the same room where the council meets tonight with Judge Steve Greer presiding. I witnessed part of a sort of graduation ceremony. I'm no legal scholar, but it seemed like a promising program for real reform in the justice system. I'd encourage the council to explore and perhaps show support for these reform efforts in the judicial branch of government. Finally, and this is a bit more, last week I introduced the idea of a knowledge-based economy by quoting George Washington. Knowledge is the surest source of happiness. I want to elaborate to the council on how the city can increase knowledge and therefore increase the happiness of its citizens. One part of economies in general is the market. For example, the farmer's market is integral to agricultural sectors of the economy, and the stock market is integral to industrial sectors of the economy. In the knowledge-based sectors of the economy, the knowledge market is where people buy and sell knowledge. A Shelton knowledge market would look much like the Shelton farmers market, but instead of jam and honey stands, there'd be photography and music booths. Rather than buying and selling cabbages and cucumbers, mentors could chat with young adults who want to set short and long-term goals and make plans to achieve them. And instead of rhubarb and apple pie, there'd be people playing games and telling stories and chatting around a fire pit. I believe the Shelton knowledge market could be one part of a comprehensive solution to homelessness in Shelton because unhoused people have stories to tell. Their knowledge is valuable. In the knowledge market, knowledge is exchanged for something else of value. I propose that visitors to the knowledge market pay in the form of a token, which is redeemable at the Shelton farmers market. In this way, the city of Shelton would be facilitating the exchange of money for knowledge. Visitors to the knowledge market would purchase tokens, and then they would use their tokens to purchase knowledge from the unhoused and other knowledge vendors at the knowledge market. And this would allow the unhoused to purchase food from the farmers market with their tokens. I now ask for someone considered leadership or their appointee so I can talk with them about working to build the Shelton knowledge market. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else in the audience? I see Mr. Olson's going to speak.
Mike Olson, I live in the city. First of all, I want to tell Jay the difference between wiffle ball and a pickleball, is the size of the well. They don't need. And another thing I wanted to say was, Mark doesn't come by as integrity recently. He's had that his whole career. I have a story 40 years ago playing city ball. And we were locked out of the gym for some reason and transit for a cell phone. And run somewhere to the payphone, get Mark out of the house at 7 o'clock at night, and boy, he came right down and got us in there. So it was a good choice. My concern today is I see the county has purchased another piece of property in the city. The old Harry Johnson machine shop over on what's that, Park Street? No, Front Street. It's another piece of property along with Olson Furniture that's no longer giving anything back to the city. And so I've also noticed that the old Bank of America building is for sale. So I have a little concern because the county does have a master plan of purchasing quite a few properties around, you know, whether they ever will or not. But there is a master plan, and they're going to take, you know, 2 or 3 city blocks. And so I've urged the city and you guys to reach out to the county whenever possible, to the chamber, to the, you know, the Economic Development Council, and you know, we got to have some heads up on this. If they purchase something across from that courthouse, you know, there is another prime piece of real estate that brings no tax revenue and no retail space in the city. You know, they've got a huge piece of ground out there in their public works department that I don't know why they don't go out there and build, other than people are desperate to unload properties that are slow to move, I'm sure, in the city like that. I think the city could also look at, you know, why doesn't the city buy some of this property? I know there's public-private partnerships that can happen. The Mason Transit's a good example. They bought the property down there, the new transit center, and it's also a retail space down there. I don't know why the city can't get into that. I know sometimes the old saying is you got to spend. The city can do something in the downtown to take this land before the county grabs it. I like what Commissioner Bode is doing. He's bringing it, and the other members are bringing things down. You know, if we let the county take this property, it's just not going to go well. We're already losing money in property taxes and retail sales. So that's my point. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. And no one else in the audience like to speak? Does the council have any new items for discussion? Nope. All right. Our next meeting is scheduled Tuesday, August 1st at 6 p.m. We also have a study session on July 25th at 6 p.m. This meeting is adjourned at 6:57 p.m.